Hello again. Evolution of consciousness. We're gonna try to stay on topic. I don't know if I can though. Y'all know I love taking some side streets. I haven't figured out whether or not this chair, sitting in this chair, or sitting on my couch is a good place. I don't really have this new space fully decorated yet, so it just looks like clinical white walls, and that's not the case. Like it's decorated in here. It's just that it's not decorated yet. I'm getting there. Okay. Evolution of consciousness. I am going to have this conversation with y'all real quick because I want you to understand where my perspective is and where my philosophy is. And yes, I am a student of the Jung philosophies and the Tao philosophies and the Buddhist philosophies, but also Jesus philosophies and Muhammad philosophies. Okay, untainted by the mind, the interpretation of man. Now, some of it has been interpreted to me by man, but when I say untainted by it, I mean that you know how when you have the 5 second rule, you drop something on the floor and you blow it off or dust it off and go ahead and eat it. I'm gonna go with it like that. As I got older, I went ahead and dusted off, blew it off, and then looked at it myself and decided I'm gonna eat it because it's good. At least for my spirit and my mind, so that I can understand and digest humanness from all the perspectives, because I think that's what's fair. If I'm going to sit here and proclaim to you, and I do so emphatically at this point, that I'm here for all humans, not just the ones that I think I can identify with from a cultural perspective, of upbringing perspective, or a racial perspective, or a political perspective. I am here for all humans that want to sit with me and talk for a bit. I've often said, and I'll say it to you again, think of your body and all its parts. Do you know your body is constantly doing stuff even when you sleep? I know most people at this point, especially if you get to be grown, knows that. Your blood cells are traveling up highways and byways in your body to get to one destination and that destination and that destination to do different things. The same things human beings do on the earth, cells do in your body. And the different type of cells tell you where they go, what they do, what they're good at, all these things. No different than human beings. It is the epitome of as above, so below. Now, if you get real complicated, if you want to get real complicated with it, now, caution. If you're one of those folks who are dealing emotionally with something that's called spiritual psychosis, something that you go down so many rabbit holes of conspiracy theories and spirituality that you just start losing it at random times. And when I say losing, I mean you're having acute mental breakdowns and things like this at random times, or depression or anxiety or fear or any kind of mental disturbances from deeper conversations about spirituality and consciousness. I don't think you should sit here and talk for this conversation. Leave this for a time, and you can always revisit it now. Leave this for a time until you are mentally and emotionally well enough to handle that. Or you don't even have to come back to this conversation at all, baby. It's okay. It's okay. All right? All right. And give y'all some moments to go watch another video. You ain't got to watch this one. Okay? All right. Now let's continue. The as above, so below concept is like we've already, I'm sure there's a lot of people who've already understood and discerned that you look at the leaf of a tree and you see the lines in your own hand. Everything is mirroring each other in nature. And this earth is not the only nature that exists. Okay? Now, you don't even have to look. An atheist can sit down here and have this conversation with me and still understand it for what it is. Okay? Okay. And I think it's an easier perspective to gain insight from, but that's my subjective opinion. Yours can be different, and that's okay. But in this body, you have cells doing all kinds of things and different behaviors and whatever the case may be. You even have cells that do damage, that little cells that cause pain and strife inside of you. And is they're doing things they ain't supposed to be doing. And sometimes it happens organically out of nowhere. And sometimes it happens because you put a carcinogen in your body or there's carcinogens in your environment. And carcinogens are just poisonous things like smoking cigarettes or overindulging in foods that are not healthy or alcohol or drugs or something like that. Those carcinogens are going to cause damage to some kind of branches and cells in your body. Okay? This too is how humans behave. So if we're doing things that are for the structure of the body of humankind, if we think about it from the concept of a body, we understand that there are human beings out there just doing their job. They're good family people, or they don't have a family at all. They're just a good person that lives in the community. The pillars of the community are not always people who are seen. The pillars of the community are the people who keep working when there's a hurricane. They keep working when COVID shut everything down. They kept working to make sure we can actually get deliveries and things like this when nobody else is out there doing much of nothing or able to do much of nothing. Those are the pillars of the community. Okay? And these are the people that keep the body going. That's why I think they're the most important and most valuable human beings to our society, not celebrities. No, I'm not shitting on celebrities when I say that. Okay? Because celebrities have that job too. Well, some of them are just, I can't. Anyway, they have their job too because some people are educated through books. Some people are educated through talks. Some people are educated through media. And you know what? A lot of times when human beings evolve, it is our media that helps us to the next level of evolution. Even if you've been educated through books and some other methods, our media, their movies, and our music are the thing that educate the mind can potentially educate the mind even further. The unfortunate part, first side street, I was going to try not to in this talk, but we're going to go ahead and go because I think it's necessary to say. There are people who now understand that and how musical waves and vibrations, including the words that are said in songs, can influence the minds of the very young, especially if their prefrontal cortex is not fully developed. So if they put enough of this out there, they can cause good or bad to happen at any given time. And there are people who are aware that that's what they're doing and they still participate in it as the artist. And I'm like, how could you? That's one of the biggest sins, in my subjective opinion, that is being committed and enacted on the society that is already hurting and in pain. I said my piece. Okay? My music sold y'all that. And folks like them. Anyway. So, when we understand that as above, so below, is not just a witchy term, which I don't think diminishes people who consider themselves witches. We already talked about this. Okay? You're going to either align yourself with people who burn women and children or you're not. Well, they were witches. Really? Really? So there are the same people who say they don't believe, they think people who call themselves witches are crazy in some way or devil worshippers. Or the same people who are like, but they should have burned them. They were witches. Which one is it? Was they really witches, or should they have not done that? So, like, pick a struggle: ignorance or murder. Like, are you aligning with which one of these? Ignorance or murder? Okay. Because I tell you my experiences, and yours could differ. My experiences with those types of people is the same as my experiences with every human being on the planet. Some people make good choices and some people do not. The end. But 9 times out of 10, the majority make good choices. And when I say good choices, that is subjective to me. My opinion is of a good choice is they protect themselves, but also they're here to help heal themselves through more natural modalities. They love shiny rocks. They love being in nature. They love candles. They love things that smell good. They're really great manifestors typically. And they try their best not to do any harm to anyone. Unless it's in self-defense. I see that no more dangerous than a gun. As a matter of fact, a gun is more dangerous. Okay? Because ain't nobody out here accidentally casting on nobody. You cast on somebody, you did it on purpose. Now you can, again, nobody who's listening to me have to believe that part. You don't have to believe in none of that. And some people think it's silly, and that's fine. That's fine. You don't need to. That's just me saying some things that I understand at this point. You might say, well, if you told yourself just now, she only saying that because she a witch. No, I'm not. I ain't been a witch for a very, very long time. When I say witch, I mean somebody who is in tune with nature and they, in some way, choose comfort in nature than in people. And there's not someone who calls themselves a witch or who is witchy that doesn't understand what I just said. I'd rather be around nature and in cubby holes with old ancient textbooks, smelling them old books and dealing with rocks and natural things than I deal with people, because people were so hurtful. Okay? But I ain't been that in a long, long time. And there's levels, but my evolutionary state at this point is I am, just as I am. There's no labels or titles on this. But if you want to put a label or title on it, you can go ahead and call it a match. I'm cool with that. Because that's what the old ones used to call it. But even that doesn't matter for most of these conversations. Okay? Okay. Now, moving forward, pushing this thing a little long down the block, the as above concept, so below concept applies to all things, including our breaths that we take. Okay? Evolution of consciousness is happening as we speak. Everything been weird because it needs to be weird. We needed to evolve so we don't die, y'all. That's just not even more complicated than that. Because human beings at their current evolutionary state in about 2010, 2012 area, the assessment was done, honey. Listen, whatever is bigger than us, whatever body we all living in as cells, understood something. No different than, I would apply it this way metaphorically. There's some folks that get to like 35, 40 and suddenly decide they want to be marathon runners. Okay? Ain't nothing wrong with that. They want to get their body right, get together, or keep what they already have. And then I want to start getting, that's eucalyptus oil, y'all. I love putting that on my fingers and doing a little sniffy sniff. It grounds me. And they decide they want to take care of their body better, eat better. They want to get their cholesterol under control. Consider that in this conversation is the best possible metaphor I can come up with. And I hope it helps you understand what I'm talking about. There is an awareness of age. There is no coincidence that we call things ages, like the Piscean age we just leaving, and Aquarius age that we're just starting. There's no coincidence in the language that we use to describe things. It was always going to be, okay, when we get to this point, we're going to have to revamp things. Slowly but surely, but we're going to have to revamp things. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to keep up with this body. This body's not going to be healthy if it doesn't go through this evolutionary change. Okay? This ain't even our first time doing this. Okay, really not. I'm laughing because I'm trying to decide whether I should say what I'm about to say. I already gave y'all the disclaimer. If you are prone to spiritual psychosis, some of the things I say might be a little sensitive for you. I don't recommend you continue this conversation with me. All right, cool. Imagine reincarnation. As above, so below applies to everything, love. And if you have sat through the conversation that I've had about reincarnation, understanding that it's more plausible to me subjectively than a heaven and hell, then we can apply that, even if you do so metaphorically. Now imagine Because the body is so large, we are including ourselves in every planetary body in this solar system and universe, of which we have many, and all of creation. And all of creation is not just Earth. Imagine the ages being like something similar to 10 years of a human lifespan. Well, at about between 80 and 120, guess what happens? Human beings are not going to live beyond that point. There is a set limit of how long the body's going to live before it dies and goes to oblivion and nothingness, as the atheists believe, or it's going to go to some version of heaven or hell, as other religious dynamics and believe. Or it's going to just return to nature, become one with it, and turn into something else, as other naturalists believe. But we got at max about 120 years. If that, I ain't seen nobody get to 120 in a long time. So there's that. So if you imagine that we got 12 zodiac signs, and each age is equivalent to 10 years, then you know what? If this ain't our first rodeo, that means we got about 2,000 years in each of them. All right. So every 24 to 27,000 years or so of human existence, or existence of consciousness, we redo it all over again, start all over again somewhere. And then we got to start all over again as a baby in an Aries age. Imagine that's a thing. I'm not saying for you to believe that's a thing, but that's conceptually plausible. Okay? And in order for us to evolve, we must understand that there's a purpose in evolution. Just so true is the purpose in us growing and developing our minds in a healthy way. There's a reason why we don't want to show a young child a whole bunch of violence when they're very little. We don't want that to be the concept of what's normalized in their life. We would like to give them kindness and love and hugs and kisses, so they can know what kindness is before we put all that in their face, because eventually they're going to experience something in this life like that, even if they do experience it through media. It's the reason why we don't give a little baby too much. And the little babies are between actual newborn infants all the way up into about 10 years old. Their minds are still very baby-like and childlike. We're supposed to, the best outcomes come from giving it the most gentleness and love and not putting too much on those shoulders. Okay? So what we at right now is we take from the first 10 years, what we'll call that Aries, and that 2,000 year period. And now we're up to where we're going into the Aquarian age. This is about evolution of consciousness. So we've evolved the body, we've grown the body. Once we get about the age of where we start getting like that crystallized intelligence, even a human being, it's not necessarily about analytical intelligence, but it's not about that. But there is something called crystallized wisdom that you get from nothing other than still being alive around that age. And it's around age 55, something like that. And this is something that is scientifically proven across the board, from neurology all the way to psychology. Even the arts believe such things, because it's been seen enough, time tested. Okay? It's not something that is based on race, gender, ideology. This is just something that happens to people once they get to a certain age. They get something called crystallized intelligence. I'm not saying everybody make good choices with it, but they get it. Okay? In order for you to perceive and understand crystallized intelligence as a body experiencing that, like, we're going into a more mature crystallized intelligence starts at about 55. But what if we're beyond that at this point, and it's time for us to understand that we need to evolve our consciousness so much so that we're no longer destroying our home and each other, because that is what is necessary to happen. No different that once we get up to that about 50 years old, a lot of folks start organically start to preach wisdom to the youth. without them asking, and sometimes in an annoying way. Forgive me. It's like, if you go on my Facebook when I don't have it deactivated for being irritated with human beings, I'll be honest, that's what I do it for, because I be irritated. Because I experience it on a visceral level, the emotions and the feelings of the things that I perceive. I can't really scroll all that much, y'all. I'm be honest. But even just getting into any app of social media, I immediately feel it's like a whole bunch of people touching me without touching me. And I don't even know how that's happening and how I haven't figured out how to inoculate myself from that feeling yet, but I haven't. Okay? Anyway. This body needs to mature in order to survive and thrive, because we must teach the ones that are coming up behind us. Yeah. Now, the world doesn't necessarily end, it just repropagates anew. No different than this body. It repropagates anew. But what new you gonna have if you don't learn to evolve your consciousness? It is a natural and organic thing that's going to happen, or it is in the process of happening to humankind right now. Okay? That's all. And in order to evolve your consciousness, we talked about the cells in the body before and how they operate within this, and how we're no different than cells in the body. Each one of us individually are no different than cells in the body. We're cells in one big body. And even if you want to look at that from a metaphorical perspective, that's fine to make it easier for your brain stuffs. It is aging. Not in its dying way, but in its maturing. Now, some folks in this body are brain stem cells. Okay? They're cells of the brain. And how you can know you that is, what are you doing with yourself and your purpose in life? Some folks are the heart. Some folks are the lungs. Right? And how you operate. Okay? In my mind's eye, I imagine that Adele is lungs, a lung cell. You might say, why is she not a heart? She does such emotional songs. Andrew, Make You Feel My Love is one of my favorite songs of all time. Adele singing that song, it touches my spirit every time. Well, there are times, look, listen, Pisces Venus is about the Venus, okay? There are times when I know I need a good cry, but not a sad cry. I just need to cry some feelings and some energy out of me. That song. Turn it on, let it go. I even wrote it in my granddaughter's baby book. After, like, that's this book that one of my clients gave me when she was, when her mom was still pregnant. And because that song touches me so, ever since I heard it for the first time, I didn't think about no man. First people I thought about was my children. It makes me think of my children. Oh, no, I'm not. Y'all. Get it together, said. The first people I thought about were my children. And so, there's a part in the back of the book that you can write a little dedication to your grandkid. And I wrote the dedication and that song at the bottom, so when she's old enough, she can play that song. Because I don't know if I'm going to be here, y'all. But if I'm not, I want to leave her as much love and support from my words and my action as possible. So there's never a doubt. And maybe that's a selfish thing. I don't know. Anyway, it was that. But I said lungs because she can belt. She can whoop. As the old folks say, she can whoop. She can handle those notes that just feel like they come all over, like they took every piece of air out of her sometimes. Like Whitney Houston, I would see as lungs, right? Or lungs and some throat cells, like some esophageal cells, and a little bit of gut too, because some of them notes that Whitney Houston used to blow out, She had to come from not the necessarily lungs, but from the gut. She had to have control of her gut in order to bring those notes out. Okay. And when I say to know what kind of cell you is, what kind of operation are you performing? Right? In your life. It doesn't have to be complete correlation to a part of the body, right? But we all matter in that. That's another reason why I'm like, I know some folks out here like NPC this, NPC that. Every functioning human being matters in this body. No matter how you view their existence. They feel happiness, sadness, and joy just like you do. Cut it out, please. Okay? I guess the more you judge somebody else for something you feel like it's not good enough, this is just my little subjective opinion. Y'all can take it or leave it. It might not even be true, but it might be. I don't know. I couldn't tell you. But the more harm you cause to somebody else through judgment in this life, I would suspect if reincarnation was real, you're going to have to experience that to see what it's like to be judged in such a way. And I ain't got no heaven or hell to put you in. But if you think of things that way, maybe you'll be less likely to be so inclined to be so cruel. Just saying. Anyway, when we think of that evolution of consciousness, some cells do change over time. They evolve over time. Your cells evolve over time. That's the reason why your face ages. And it don't always have to be a negative thing. You go from having a baby face to having a different face as a young child, and a different face as an adolescent, and a different face. That's evolution of time. Your brain is evolving. As a matter of fact, we talked about it before. Your brain does not fully evolve, even in one human lifetime, until you're at least 25. Your prefrontal cortex is not fully developed until that time. Imagine at this time that we're developing as the body. Because when the prefrontal cortex is not fully developed, it affects all the things. Decision making. And the decision making being affected and impacted sometimes can be negative results. This is why adolescent, especially adolescent boys, hurt themselves so much. And has high accident and death rates because their prefrontal cortex is not fully developed. And until that is, you're in danger. So imagine that prefrontal cortexes are finally developing, are finally fully developing now, because I don't know about y'all. See, some people are going to be long in the tooth that listen to this, and some people won't be. Some people will be in their 20s. So don't take offense. Just understand you're still developing and growing. You're little and learning, and it's okay. But folks that ain't little and learning, you're a little bit longer in the tooth. That means a little bit older. Then you know that's a big ass difference from somebody who's 25 and somebody who's 35. And that's even still a bigger difference between somebody who's 35 and somebody who's 55. And so there ain't much difference other than caring, giving less fucks about things. Which I look forward to so much. Oh, goodness gracious. I look forward to that so much. I gotta give a few little bitty ones until I find who my inner circle of people are and my person is for the rest of my days. I gotta give some, but I really don't be wanting to, y'all. Anyway. Oh gosh. But as a species, as one body, we're all evolving our prefrontal cortex metaphorically. And that's what the Aquarian age is really going to be about. Evolving how we think and how we see things. We're going to look back on this time period not long from now and see how youthful we were. How much we didn't know or understand. And if you don't believe that, not that long ago, and I know people think it's long ago because it's in history books, people used to literally have chamber pots and that was normalized, no matter what your rank in society was. And if you don't know what a chamber pot is, that is a pot used to shit in and leave in your bedroom with you. Can you? There is almost nobody on the planet who lives like that at this point, or who chooses, if they had a choice, to live like that. But even the wealthy lived like that back then. We realize how unsanitary that is, and how potentially disease uh, infested that is. Overnight, for real. And then we had somebody that they hired, it's called a chambermaid, that would come and clean the room and dump the pot. Now understand, if there was multiple people in the room, like two people that live in the room, like a married couple, both of them was pissing and shitting in that same pot. And that chambermaid would come in there with no gloves on and dump that pot every day. And then go cook their food. Mm. We've evolved past it. We sure have. And so now that we're not adolescents anymore, now that we're not young adults anymore, I'll tell you the people who are having the roughest time right now, the people who have not evolved their consciousness, the reason why they're angry is not because they're spiritually demonized. The reason why they're angry and having tantrums, a lot of them, is because they have not been able to evolve themselves in any way in the last, not just 5 years, since 2012. We've been on a steady climb of evolution. Very quick, fast pace. And that don't happen always. It just happens when it's time to happen. No different than growth spurts happen at a certain age. Our growth spurts are not in the physical anymore, it's in the mental. No different than the human lifespan. Okay? So I need to help you understand that. That's how we understand it. So if things feel weird, it's because they is weird. I think people should start giving each other a hard time about the weirdness that has been happening. I'm just burning some rosemary. Thank you, Rachel. I still have the rosemary. I just take little tiny pieces off because it smells so good, girl. Thank you once again. Whatever the species of rosemary this beautiful woman sent me. Oh, it's my favorite rosemary I've ever had to burn. Anyway, things are weird, and even I used to have some shame associated and attached with the weirdness that is attached to me, or the weirdness that came along with the evolution. Because some of us, let's just be real, put it on the table. This is not even about comparing one to the other or judging one less as less than. I can't tell you why the choices were made. Okay? I wish I knew, because 9 times out of 10, not at this very moment, but 9 times out of 10, over my lifespan, I really wanted to fight whoever made choices when they made choices. Okay? Just fight them. I'm talking about like put illegal brass knuckles on and everything. Like, let's go on the street. I want to pull my hair back and we need to move some things around. Have a short conversation about a long topic or something like that. Okay? But some choices were made to have some evolve faster at a faster rate than others. And I was just talking to a student either today or yesterday. I think it was yesterday. It's like, compare it to Deadpool in the gas chamber, honey. One of the first things I said, and I had deleted the video because I'm like, it got too much attention and it freaked me the hell out. I'll be honest. It was the first time I had a video go over 500 views, and I thought people were just being mean to me. Because people were at that time doing things that were just really, really strange. And I didn't understand, and I came to understand that they were actually attacking me, and that was confusing to me. So I didn't buy that they were watching me to watch me out of entertainment or education. Like, are these people just people coming here to do something mean eventually, or, some other stuff? And I also it just freaked me out to have that many people looking at me all at once. Okay. I'm better. I'm getting better at not giving a damn about any of that. Anyway, but some of us evolved faster, which made some of us didn't even make it through the gauntlet. But that video I was mentioning that is no longer there, first thing I said out of the gate is, I'm sorry for whatever happened to you. And that metaphor of Deadpool in that gas chamber, In order for us to evolve, we had to go through some really hard stuff. And I know that there's a lot of people who ain't never apologized or that for the things they did to me or things I went through. But also, even if they didn't do nothing to me, it would. I know it would be nice to hear. I'm sorry you went through that. I'm sorry. And if nothing else, you're not alone. Sorry, I got emotional again. Damn it. There's nothing wrong with tears, y'all. It's just right now it's disruptive to me. Anyway, I'm sorry y'all went through that. I'm sorry y'all had to go through that. But there was a purpose in it, right? Even though it sucks. Like Ajax was Ajaxing. We're still talking about the metaphor of Deadpool and Ajax putting him in that gas chamber. Because nobody who that I understand were chosen to evolve a little bit faster to teach the others, then go through some hell, man. And that was the only way to do it that I understand. I wish there was another way. Absolutely I do. But that's the only way I guess human beings evolve and mature a bit faster. It's another reason why this is not even bias. I believe women should be running the world and do. Because women have to go through more strife and pain, which matures them a bit faster and helps them have more empathy towards others. When a man starts being able to develop a uterus and have the periods that we do, then we can talk again. But until then, women should be running the world. But that's just my humble opinion, and that part is subjective. You can have a different opinion, and you can throw that whole little thing I just said about women running the world out the window and adhere to the rest and try to understand the rest, and we'll be cool still. Okay? Okay. I'm allowed to have subjective opinions, but I always let you know when it's subjective. Anyway, don't ask me why or how, because sometimes I feel like I know it, sometimes I don't. I just know it is. But here's the thing. This is another thing I believe. I don't believe there is no better or you're so much better. But if you just had the aptitude, and I've talked about that part before, you just had the aptitude that other people have not yet developed in themselves. And that's just by luck and chance. You ain't that special. And I'm saying that not to the people who genuinely did the work to heal themselves so they can help, or at least not hurt. I'm talking to them egomaniacs out there that I've experienced that just like went too far. And there were times when I did too. But if you're still going too far, I'm talking to you. It ain't about you. It never was about you individually. As a matter of fact, most of you will be forgotten. And the point is for us to be here, help human beings evolve and hopefully be forgotten. Why? Because last time it don't work out that great. When we have prophets or prophetess, well, mostly prophet because we always make a male, don't we, humans? But what do? They're killed in that person's name. Knowing from what I read full well that was never the intention, is to kill, harm, and maim in their name. Maybe this time it's better for us to come here, teach, and go away peacefully and quietly and just have our egos just be all right with it. Because if we leave a piece of ourselves here, make it clear and plain that death, murder, and destruction in our name is not something that we want or co-sign. But the problem with that is that some of the people that I know for a fact got the sauce. Somebody made the choice on them. What I've experienced so far, that may not be the case. If you staunchly believe that your way is the only way, still be open to learning, even from the people you consider to be your students. And that's the only way forward, I think, for the ones who consider themselves to be quote-unquote chosen. As for the rest of the folks that are learning from us, you are not less than us. We are here to serve you. Because the goal It's for all of us to evolve to a space where we stop destroying the planet. We find a way to stop doing that. We cultivate more intelligence and love and nurturing into our children so that they can someday save this place. Because we ain't going to do it. Because it's been too much fast food. There's been too much chemicals. There's been too much fast food TV. Look, reality TV shows didn't do none of our brains no favors. Again, that's subjective. But it's okay to have that. But we also took away the choice to not see that. Why? I was just talking about yesterday. I enjoyed the History Channel the way it was. When it just talked about history, not all this stuff. It's okay to make money and to entertain ourselves, but we also must have the option of vegetables, even for our mind, our emotion, and our spirit. Come on. And when we don't have that, that's a problem. One of the biggest reasons, I'm telling you, I am a staunch proponent of shutting down TikTok, and here's why. Not that it hasn't done a great service to humanity and speeding up that evolutionary process because more people are going to therapy. I think, and I credit TikTok for this, right? But well, you know what else it does? It messes with the emotional regulation of the children that we're trying to aid and assist. The scrolling, the impact of the negative commentary, the views, the ups and downs, and I've discussed this at length before, okay? The combativeness that's potentially there. Well, the algorithm knows me. A robot, a machine should not know you better than you know thyself, and you know each other, okay? That isn't a thing. It keeps you from branching out because it pigeonholes you into one. It's like, this is my pet. And this is what I strongly feel. Again, subjective. I got the hiccups. That's what I call it. So I tell Amy, you got the hiccups? I got the hiccups, so excuse me. I think it's devolved into treating human beings like pets. I'm going to feed you the thing I think you want so you can stay here and be my pet. Just, where's the thoughts? Where's the originality? I know it was a problem when people were like, well, I'm going to do this thing. It's going to get a lot of clout. And then someone else copies them. And then someone else copies them. And then someone else copies them. And then someone, I do it better. Here's my version of it. Where is your creativity going? That's what we think is creative now, copying each other? I'm confused. Oh, what Terry says. I think he's adorable. I'm confusion. I think his name is Terry. I'm confusion. Why is copying off each other creative? It don't, hold on. I ain't trying to put no logos on this camera. Anyway. Ooh. Okay, I'm not doing too bad because sometimes I can get up to 50 minutes, y'all. But I think it's an important conversation to have moving forward. This is an important conversation to have. Part of the evolutionary process is not necessarily building a metaphorical Tower of Babel. It's more like tearing down to build up. Interfaith, places of worship. In order for you to have an interfaith place of worship, because chaplains around the world have to do this for military personnel all the time. It was my inspiration being a military spouse for 21 years, seeing the chaplain have to cater to all of these different cultures and faiths, because sometimes there was no other options for sanctuary spiritually. So they had to learn all these. And I'm not beyond becoming a chaplain in that way. My choice is to do that. Right? And that's why, I think one of the reasons why that I've studied as much as I have on the different faiths is I realize that there's a need to have some oneness with spirit. Whatever you feel is the closest impactful thing emotionally to you, culturally or religiously, right? But I think part of the evolutionary process is us having more interfaith. In other words, the Catholic Church will not be running the world anymore as it pertains to our religious beliefs and dogmatic ideals. Why? Because in the time that they needed to run the world, they did. Listen, I don't agree with everything that was done, no. But I do agree with the fact that human beings at that stage of development needed some groundedness. Okay? They weren't mature enough to understand the consequences of their actions over time. So they need something to scare them into doing so. Now listen, you may not even agree with that assessment. I'm not saying it's the best assessment in the world, but that's the best I got for right now based on the history that I've learned and understood up until this point. Now, I sit here before you as someone who has chosen education, that have educated themselves. I am not an uneducated person. I'm not an unlearned person. Even if I was, speaking this to you, it's coming from the soul. It's something that I intuit. But I also have the foundation in education, okay? And I understand how human beings use human. I told y'all before in one of our previous videos, I have no idea why I was guided to this museum of torture over in Europe when I was studying abroad. Okay? Because to this day, I wish I could unsee that. But I also had an idea about Catholicism that was like, I was mad. I've been mad at them since Sinead O'Connor, since Saint Sinead. I've been mad at them. See, when everybody else was doubting sis, okay, and blacklisting her, I was very young youth, but I still was like, I don't think nobody could. I know y'all want to just call her crazy, but I don't think nobody could do something like that and ruin everything they have going on for something that is not possible. And everybody around me, including some of the Christians who weren't necessarily Catholic, really didn't believe sis was telling the truth. It took many, many years for us to understand that these people were actually doing the things that she accused them of. I believed her immediately, and I can't tell you why. But I've been mad with them since. Like, why? Why were they even necessary? But when I ask myself questions why, I don't expect some divine force to tell me. And if they did, I would ignore them after the life I had up until that point when I did start to study. Because I'm mad at you. When I get mad at somebody, it takes a lot for me to, well, it used to take a lot for me to be unmad. It's hard for me to even get mad at folks nowadays. I'm like, you don't even know what you be doing, do you? All right, I'll see you later when you do know what you're doing. When you got your shit together. Because I don't have the energy for the anger. I do, but I'm not going to spare it for that. Anyway. But I've been mad. I've been mad with God for a long time. So I'm like, and God and anything that is associated with it for a long time. Mm-hmm. And I had finally started to soften when I became a young adult and still had stuff just kicking me straight up in the teeth. I'm like, it doesn't matter how good of a person I am. What? You want me to believe in you? And as it pertains to such things, I understand. Belief is not necessary for me anymore, but I understand something. Okay? But at this time, I still had a little bit of that bias against. But when I saw the way human beings, from a historical perspective, and a lot of the history of that is in Europe, the way human beings treated each other with and without religion, a lot of mercy. Like my baby said today, another one of my clients said today, just cut your pearls. You don't even cut your pearls. You got to cut the pearls. That's how bad it was. Like, I would probably whooped everybody's ass too. I'm not saying the Crusades were correct and the way that they did things, but what other choices they have, you know? But we can do things differently. And we don't have to go about that necessarily. This is not to say that Catholicism needs to go away. No, if that brings you peace, that's welcome. But we're not going to, I just think from the perspective that I'm going to be instructing and teaching you, and talking to you and having these conversations. Yeah, I'm gonna have my personal stories. I always have my personal stories. This is how it grounds me to be able to be clear and concise, but also level with you. Show you my humanness. But as I teach, I want you to understand my perspective is omnism, period. That incorporates everybody and the entire body together without malice, without judgment. We just love. I say that emphatically because some people don't seem to understand. They think we can use Christianness as a weapon still. No, that is not necessito. We ain't gotta do all that. Okay? We can say, you know what, this is what I believe. And some of y'all are really out there using Christianity as a shield to shield the public from seeing. And I think it's obvious at this point that you are afraid, that you are biased, that you are a bigot. And the purest form of the definition of that. And it has nothing to do with Christianity whatsoever. And the same thing is true for the folks across the seas who do the same things because they are bigots and they are sexist and they are afraid perpetually of evolution, of equality, of people educating themselves, because then they will no longer be able to subjugate others. Those who harm others using religion as a shield at this time in our evolutionary process are only those people who are afraid to lose slaves. I said what I said. But here's the thing. Again, the whole body matters. It depends on whether or not you want to be that sort of Cancer moving forward. And use the metaphor we've been talking about, the whole body. What we do to Cancer? We go on here and we heal it and we eradicate it in whatever way you need to do that. And sometimes the way we do that is we evolve our thinking and the way we treat ourselves and others. And that's what we're going to keep doing. No matter what. Okay? Anyway, I've been talking at y'all for over 50 minutes. And I figured I'd treat y'all since I didn't go to the park this Sunday. Anywho, you're loved. I hope you all understood that too. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them. Bye.